My best friend of 31 years stood up in front of 200 people at First Baptist Church and made the whole room wonder if I had stolen money meant for poor children. She didn't say the word out loud. She didn't need to. The whole sanctuary went so quiet, I could hear the air conditioning humming above the choir loft. My name is Carol Jean Bennett. I am 68 years old, and until that terrible November, I was the kind of woman people trusted with their house keys, their secrets, and their children's Christmas presents. I taught 4th grade in Savannah, Georgia for 34 years. I buried my husband Harold 6 years ago after 41 years of marriage. And for the last decade, I chaired the church's Christmas toy drive, the same drive Harold and I started back in 1998 with 2 cardboard boxes and a coffee can for donations. By the time November arrived, we had collected $15,200 for that year's toy drive, all of it held in a dedicated church checking account, with my name on the signature card alongside that of our treasurer, Diane Foster. Diane and I met in 1993 in a Lamaze class, 2 nervous young wives practicing breathing exercises we'd never actually use once labor started. Our daughters grew up practically as sisters, sharing bunk beds at church camp and matching dresses every Easter for a decade. My daughter, Emily, eventually married a young man named Todd Ferris, a sweet-seeming fellow who worked in sales and always remembered my birthday. Diane and I planted azaleas together, buried our husbands 2 years apart, and spoke on the phone almost every single evening, usually about nothing at all. I trusted her with everything. My house key hung on a hook by her back door. Looking back, there were small things I brushed off, the way you brush a moth off your sleeve without really looking at it. In October, Diane started avoiding eye contact when the fund came up in committee meetings. Once, I asked her to pull the bank statement for our records, and she said the bank was having system issues 3 months running. I told myself she was just overwhelmed. Grief does strange things to a person, and Diane had just lost her sister that summer. I never once thought to ask her a harder question. Have you ever noticed someone you trusted pulling away just an inch at a time and told yourself it was nothing? I did that for 2 months, and some nights now I lie awake wondering what I would have found if I'd simply asked. The real trouble started on the 2nd Sunday of November. Pastor Whitfield asked me, in front of the whole finance committee, why 3 checks had been written from the toy drive account, all made payable to cash. One was for $980, another was for $940, the third was for $975, $2,895 in total, and every single one of them carried what looked unmistakably like my own signature. I stared at the photocopies in my hand, my reading glasses sliding down my nose, and my stomach dropped straight through the floor of that meeting room. I told them plainly, my voice cracking, that I had never written those checks. Nobody believed me. I watched it happen in real time around that table, the way people's faces change the moment they've already decided you're guilty. That particular polite coldness that settles into a room like a held breath. By that Wednesday, the story had grown legs of its own. Someone at the beauty parlor said I'd been seen at the casino boat in Hilton Head. Someone else swore I'd bought a brand new Cadillac in cash. None of it was true. I don't even own a car newer than 2015. But in a town like ours, a rumor travels faster than the truth ever could. That Sunday, Diane asked to speak during announcements. I sat in my usual pew, 3rd from the front, and I actually smiled at her, certain she was about to defend me. Instead, she took the microphone, her voice trembling with what I thought was grief but now know was something closer to guilt, and she said, "As treasurer, it's my painful duty to report irregularities connected to Carol Bennett and the Toy Fund." She never said the word thief. She didn't have to. It felt like the whole sanctuary said it for her, in whispers, before I even made it out to the parking lot and into my car, where I sat, gripping the steering wheel for 20 minutes without turning the key. Within a week, I was quietly removed as chair of the toy drive. The garden club, which I'd belonged to for 18 years, stopped inviting me to Tuesday meetings without a single phone call to explain why. My own Sunday school class, women I had prayed with through cancer and divorce and dead husbands, stopped calling altogether. Emily, my daughter, called me in tears one Thursday night, not because she doubted me, but because a woman from our church had cornered her at the grocery store and said something cruel about the Bennett scandal right there by the cereal aisle. I want you to imagine that. 68 years old, and I couldn't walk into the Piggly Wiggly without a stranger's eyes following me past the cereal boxes. I could have collapsed. Some nights I nearly did. I sat at Harold's old desk, his reading glasses still folded in the top drawer, and asked him out loud what I was supposed to do now. But something in me, the same stubborn something that stood in front of 34th graders every September for 3 decades, refused to just disappear quietly into that shame. So I did what Diane never expected me to do. I hired a forensic accountant, a sharp young woman named Priya Anand, paying her out of my own retirement savings. 3 weeks later, Priya sat across from me at my kitchen table with a folder an inch thick, and she said words I will never forget. "Mrs. Bennett, these checks weren't forged by an amateur. Whoever wrote them had access to your actual physical checkbook, not just a copy of your signature." My hands went cold around my coffee cup. Diane kept a spare checkbook in the church office safe for emergencies, she'd always said. Only one other person was authorized to access it, Diane. Here is where the story truly turns, and I never saw it coming. I filed a police report that same afternoon, and 2 weeks later, with the bank cooperating with investigators, Priya and I finally learned what the security footage showed. All 3 checks had been cashed at the very same branch out in Pula, and the same man stood at that counter each time, wearing a gray zip-up jacket and a faded Georgia Bulldogs cap pulled low over his eyes. Not me, it was Todd Ferris, my son-in-law, Emily's husband of 6 years, the father of my only granddaughter, and Diane's own nephew, her sister's boy, the one she'd practically raised herself after her sister's divorce. When Todd was confronted with the footage, he broke down completely. He admitted, sobbing, that he had confessed everything to Diane back in September, weeks before she ever stood up in that church. He'd been quietly borrowing from one account to cover another for months, and by September, the losses from online sports betting apps he'd hidden from Emily had grown far beyond anything he could hide on his own. He went to his Aunt Diane in a panic. I sat in my kitchen holding that folder with my hands actually shaking, and I felt something crack open in my chest that was worse, somehow, than the original accusation had ever been. Instead of confessing to the church, instead of protecting me, her friend of 31 years, Diane chose to protect her sister's son. She let an entire congregation believe a 68-year-old widow was stealing from a Christmas fund meant for poor children, rather than let her family's name be dragged through the mud. Is family loyalty ever really worth someone else's total ruin? I still don't have a clean answer to that question, and I'm not sure I ever will. I confronted Diane on her front porch on a gray Thursday afternoon in January, the wind cutting straight through my coat. I didn't scream, I didn't cry, not at first. I simply laid the folder down on her porch swing and said, "I know it was Todd, and I know you knew." Diane went white. Then she did something I will remember until the day I die. She reached for my hand, and when I pulled it back, she said, "Carol, please. Think about what this would do to Emily's marriage, to my family. You're already retired. you don't have anything left to lose. That single sentence broke something inside me that 31 years of friendship had carefully built, brick by brick, casserole by casserole. She wasn't sorry. I'd been humiliated in front of the entire town. She was only sorry I hadn't simply agreed to quietly lose the little I had left, so that her family could keep everything intact. I took everything to Pastor Whitfield and the full finance committee myself the following Sunday. Priya's report and the bank footage laid out like evidence in a courtroom. Todd stood in front of the full committee and formally admitted what he had done, sobbing in the pastor's office afterward. The church turned over its financial records and cooperated fully with investigators, and Todd eventually pleaded guilty. Emily was devastated, but she stood beside me, not him, the moment the truth came out. He is now under a court-ordered restitution plan and mandatory gambling counseling, with automatic deductions taken from every paycheck until the full $2,895 is repaid. Diane resigned as treasurer the very next day. She wrote me one letter, 3 pages long, which I have read once and have not answered. The church issued a formal apology at the following Sunday service, read aloud from the pulpit by Pastor Whitfield while I sat in my usual pew, staring straight ahead. Some of the very same women who had crossed the street to avoid me suddenly wanted to bring me casseroles again, as if a dish of chicken and rice could undo 2 months of silence. I accepted exactly 2 of those, purely out of politeness. At Todd and Emily's daughter's baptism this past spring, Diane and I sat 4 pews apart in that same sanctuary. We did not speak, not one word, not even a nod across the aisle. Blood may be thicker than water, as the old saying goes, but it turns out gossip is thicker than either one, and it stains everything it touches, guilty and innocent alike, in a town too small to ever fully wash it out. I still teach a Sunday school class, a smaller one now, made up mostly of the handful of women who never once believed the rumors, not even for a single Sunday. The church eventually asked me to return as chair, and together we renamed the fund after Harold. I insist on 2 signatures and a monthly public financial report for every single dollar that moves through it now, no exceptions, not even for family. Trust, I've learned the hard way at 68 years old, is not something you simply get back the moment the truth finally arrives. People remember the accusation far longer than they ever remember the apology. Would you have forgiven Diane? Could you have sat 4 pews away, Sunday after Sunday, from someone who let an entire town call you a thief just to protect her own family's name? I still ask myself that question some nights, sitting at Harold's old desk with his reading glasses in my hand. And some nights, honestly, I still don't know the answer. This story is inspired by real-life patterns of betrayal, financial deception, and small-town gossip. Names, characters, and events are fictionalized,